Where do you go if you don't want to have a big adventure for several days, miles out in the backcountry, or hike up a high peak on a difficult and exhausting trail? Is there some place you can go that offers a variety of things that different members of your group or family might enjoy? Today, Tooley Pond Road brings people into the Adirondacks for recreational opportunities. But in the 1800s into the mid-1900s, people came to this part of the Adirondacks for economic opportunity. So keep watching and you'll see back in time when this was a center for mining, smelting, timber, sawmills, and railroads. The Tooley Pond Road starts here and runs along the Oswegatchie River, going north from State Highway 3, just west of Cranberry Lake. Portions of the Tooley Pond Road are paved, portions of it are not. Portions of it were once paved and are now reverting back to unpaved. Just cross State Route 3 and reset my trip odometer to 0 so we can clock the mileage to each of the trailheads. There's a little informal fishing access half a mile from State Route 3. A couple folks here are about to use it. Dillon Pond. Dillon Pond is 15 acres in size with a maximum depth of 18 feet, a little less than 6 meters. It only became publicly accessible when the state bought a conservation easement over the land. I don't know what type of fishery is there, and I haven't been able to find any sources online or at a DEC website. If you know what to expect or what type of fish are in Dillon Pond, please let us know in the comments below. Oswegatchie River, Tooley Pond Road, car top boat launch. We're at extreme low water now. We've been in a drought for weeks. Normally you could put a canoe or a kayak in here, canoe downstream in the Oswegatchie River, eventually getting to Newton Falls. Before the state acquired this tract, there was a hunting camp on the far side of the river. They would access it via a suspension bridge over a narrow section of the river, a bit more than 100 meters upstream of where the hand launch is now located. And you can still see remnants of it here today. There's an eye bolt sent into a boulder. There are bits of the heavy cable that they used for the suspension bridge. And you can see the landing on the far side. There are still some boards for whatever they used them for, corduroy road or parts of the bridge. All right, 4.6 miles north of Route 3. Come to a road that leads to the south branch of the Grass River. You can access the river there for fishing or recreating. For a woods road, it's in really good shape. There's a trail down to the river here. Wooden abutments on the bridge, wooden deck. Eponymous Tooley Pond is 5.9 miles from Route 3. There's a really nice picnic area here. Tooley Pond has a nice, wide, smooth, gentle car top boat launch. It's easy to put a canoe or kayak in here. The bottom is firm with gravel. It's lovely for paddling, canoeing, or kayaking. It has an excellent catch and release, artificial lures only bass fishery. Parking for the Tooley Pond Mountain Trailhead just beyond Tooley Pond itself, 6 miles from Route 3. A second parking area for the Tooley Pond Mountain Trail is 6.5 miles from Route 3. Not very far up the southern trail, you get a little bit of a view of Tooley Pond through the trees. Both trails have a moderate steady incline all the way to the summit. The two trails merge just below the summit. Near the top we have a survey marker, essentially in the middle of the trail. And a few meters past that we have a second survey marker. Not far to the right you have a set of steps that were probably at the base of the old fire tower that used to be here. See, it's not an open summit. Trail register is away from the road, a few meters off in the woods. Okay, we're coming up to the trail of Copper Rock Falls. Sign stand is hidden behind some trees on the left-hand side of the road, or the west side of the road. You could overshoot. When we were first bringing the kids here, well, first of all, there was no sign for the trail. Second, you had to jump the ditch. When I was a kid, we didn't have bridges over the ditches. We had to jump. Trail is kind of rooty in places, muddy in other places. There are some short, steep inclines on the Copper Rock Falls Trail. Heading north from Copper Rock Falls Trail, you'll come to an intersection with a road that takes off to the left from Tooley Pond Road. This is a short segment of road that leads to another road which is called Railroad Grade Road, which, strangely enough, is the former route of a railroad that led from Newton Falls to Newbridge and then ultimately to the Clifton ore beds. Park here right by the road so I don't add any mileage. I just love it this time of year when those larches turn yellow. Here's a neat artifact. What's left of an old signpost for the railroad. Two thick boards were bolted together. There's a barn hole right in front of me. Well, there's a spot on the river I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't taken this road. There's something I've never seen before. If anybody knows what that is, stick it in the comments below. Some black spots in the road. It's like old slag and clinkers from a furnace or a boiler. And that sure looks like a piece of coal. You'll come up to an Adirondack bridge. You can see where the road used to go. It used to be a settlement with a sawmill and a lumbering industry. And this is in a location perhaps appropriately known as New Bridge. New Bridge was settled in 1906. The Robert W. Higbee Lumber Company started shipping 3 to 4 million board feet of lumber from New Bridge every year. It built the railroad from New Bridge to Newton Falls to ship the lumber out and bring in supplies. 50 families lived in New Bridge. The lumber mill operated until about 1919. In 1942, the Hanna Coal and Ore Company extended the railroad from New Bridge to the Clifton ore beds where it had reopened operations. All right, north of New Bridge, left side of the road as you're headed north, there's a very small sign. It's easy to miss. It says canoe access. And there's a short trail down to the river there. Beautiful section of the river. But be careful if you launch here. It's not that far to Rainbow Falls. I have a nice kiosk and trail register here. The trail to Rainbow Falls is nice and level. This is a relief. So there's a little chasm you have to cross before you get to the main falls. Last time I was here, there was nothing but a couple boards. DEC has done a great job. always a mist here. If you catch it during the golden hour, I think particularly in the morning, you might find a rainbow. I am terrified of heights, so I'm not getting too close to the edge. And we are 13.4 miles from Route 3. It's about 6/10 of a mile from the gate to the trailhead for the trail to Allen Pond. In 2023, DEC surveyed and evaluated the pond's fishery. It found brook trout 1 to 3 years old. They were 7 to 15 inches in length with a mean length of 9.5 inches across all year classes. I'm here at the Allen Pond campsite. There's a constructed sandy tent pad. I'm guessing that was a lightning strike. It would have been really exciting to be here when that happened. Welcome to what's left of the once thriving settlement of Clarksboro, New York. An ore bed to the south of here was opened in the late 1850s. Forges were built here, a sawmill, and eventually a big furnace that was driven by bellows, powered by a water sluiceway just above the falls. There's no bridge across the sluiceway. We're at extreme low water now because we're in a drought. It's possible to get across by stepping on stones. When the water's up, that's a roaring torrent, and it would carry you right over the falls. At one point, about 700 people lived here. In 1868, a large furnace was built here. Unfortunately, in 1869, a fire burned it to the ground along with the sawmill. The ironworks were only partially insured, and the owner didn't have enough money to rebuild, so the mill died along with the town. I drove by the Clarksboro Trail. There's a good reason for that. There's just a itty bitty sign on that tree there. If you're coming from the south, it's really hard to see that sign. You'll have to go up this gravel road, up a fairly decent hill to get to the trail. As you're headed up the road toward the trail will be marked on your right as you crest the hill. Not very far up the trail, you come to a huge rock wall. Maybe 100 feet high. Nature is awesome. The trail leads to a spectacular overlook. The trail basically runs right along the falls. This is a very long set of falls, almost like a rapids. Leaving Sinclair Falls. Bassford Falls is about 15.6 miles from Route 3. Bassford Falls, 3/10 of a mile. The trail to Bassford Falls has a few small ups and downs in it, but it's a fairly easy trail. And it has a great treat because you are at the top of a ridge, and then you come around a bend, and you look down through the trees to the river and the falls.